Hi, this is Scott with the Android Guys. I'm here with Luke.
Hey.
Luke, let's talk about a phone carrier.
Okay.
Today we're going to discuss Visible. We've talked about them in the past in terms of who they are,
Right.
what they do, what kind of things to expect if you're considering Visible.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a series called 7 Things to Know About a Carrier.
Right.
So we will profile them and kind of help people understand a little bit more about a particular carrier that they might have seen advertised or
Sure.
in a store somewhere, maybe an online ad. So one of the questions that we bring up in those discussions is whether or not the carrier offers its own phone selection.
Right.
So now for those that do have phones, we're going through and kind of talking about, all right, let's curate some of these phones.
Sure.
Let's look at them and figure out what is a good phone for an entry-level user or for somebody who says, I need something that's among the more high-end devices. I'm a little bit heavier user, and I need something that's going to stay with me for another year or two. So what we'll do here is we'll kind of go through and figure out what's a good entry level, what's a good flagship device, and then what's the sweet spot kind of best all around.
Sure.
And that may not be right in the middle, but it might be, we kind of thread the needle between price and features.
Yeah, like what's the best phone for the money kind of idea.
Yeah.
Sure.
Is it worth spending more to get into a flagship?
Right.
Or is this kind of where we leave it off and say, hey, most people are going to be happy with something like this?
Sure.
So let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
Luke, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I'm considering Visible, and I was looking at their phones, and I'm not really sure what I want to get phone-wise, and we find out, hey, my needs are pretty minimal. I don't, I want to make phone calls. I might play a little bit of games, some Bejeweled or Candy Crush, something, that I'll do kind of passively. And, I'm not really too concerned about taking high-end photos. 5G doesn't really matter.
Sure.
What would you recommend to that type of user?
Right. So that would be the entry level device. For that, we would recommend the Samsung Galaxy A03s. It's a pretty cool phone for the price. It comes in at $160 for Visible, and with that, you're going to get a 6.5-inch screen.
Yeah.
So a pretty decent sized screen for the phone. It runs Android 11, so it's a pretty current version of Android. It's going to have a good camera on the back. It's going to have a selfie camera too on the front by the screen. And it has expandable storage. So you're going to be able to, it has 32 gigs of storage, and then you can up that to up to a terabyte with a micro SD card.
Yeah.
The other two things about this phone, it's got a 5,000 milliamp battery. So it's not a super powerful phone so a 5,000 milliamp battery is going to get you easily all day, no problem. And then the other interesting thing is this has a fingerprint sensor on the side of the phone.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit, it's an interesting phone. It's a cool device. It's not, by any means the coolest thing out there.
Sure.
It's not, bending all of the technological
right.
things, but it's a good phone to get you into a modern smartphone.
It's actually quite a bit of phone for that price.
Yeah.
The Android 11 software wise, if you're not quite sure what that really means, it's one of the more current versions of Android. 12 is out, and then 13 is getting ready to kind of make its official cover, break cover here in the next couple of months. But this doesn't mean it's an old antiquated phone. It's actually a newer phone.
Yep.
And it's got a nice little feature set for somebody who's not too demanding.
Right.
So that's the Samsung Galaxy A03s.
Yep.
And that runs again about $160.
Yep.
All right. So let's go to the other end of the line and go all the way down to, hey, I'm looking for really what's the best phone I can get.
Sure.
I'm happy to put the money into it. I'm looking for the biggest, fanciest, all the bells and whistles.
Right.
I know that sometimes there are a couple of models at the top of the line.
Right.
At Visible, what would you suggest, or what would we suggest as?
Yeah. The best phone at Visible, again, if for an Android phone is going to be the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. So that's the most current phone in the Samsung line. So that's the Galaxy S22. And the Ultra means it has top of the line everything. So this is running Android 12, the most current version of Android. It will be upgraded to 13 when that comes out. It's a big 6.8-inch screen. It's got multiple cameras on the back with a really nice front-facing 40-megapixel camera on the front.
Yep.
It's really fast. It still has that 5,000 milliamp battery, so it's going to be able to last all day. Now, you're not going to get the same battery life that you would out of the AO3S because it's a way better processor, a lot faster processor. So it's gonna take from that 5,000 milliamp a little faster,
and it's gonna push pixels too.
Yeah,
higher resolution screen.
Yep, very high resolution screen. It's got the fingerprint sensor in the display. It's got IP68 water and dust resistance.
Yeah.
It has wireless charging and
so it also does power sharing.
Power sharing, yep.
And because this is the 22 Ultra, this is the one that comes with a stylus.
Yep.
So this is kind of like a productivity, multi-purpose. I can run a business. I need to jot down notes, mark up things, do a little bit of, take some things on the fly. So the S22 is the high end of Samsung, and that's these are premium looking devices too.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell the difference in build quality, at the top level. You're also getting 5G support on this phone. And as you mentioned, the multiple cameras, some of the highest rated stuff really on the market.
Yeah.
The 22 is the flagship series and the Ultra is the high end of that flagship series. So this is one that when we look at other carriers, it tends to be the pick.
Yeah. So that one comes in, there's two different kinds. So a lot of carriers only have the one kind. So Visible you can get it in 128 gigabyte storage or 256 gigs of storage. The 128 is going to be $1,200. The 256 is going to be $1,320. So those are pricey.
Yeah.
But they do have some financing available through Affirm if you want to do that. That's available for all their devices.
And those prices are pretty much in line with what you're going to find at other carriers, and also through buying it directly from Samsung.
Right.
So let's turn our attention to something somewhere in the middle.
Sure.
And figure out what is the best phone for the average person.
Right.
What is the intersection of performance and price?
Yeah.
And something that is just kind of like a great all-around option.
So the sweet spot for us is going to be the Google Pixel 6. That is the latest model from Google. It runs Android 12, and with running Android 12, it is going to be stock Android. Because it comes from Google, it's not going to have anything extra. It's going to be a pure Android experience. The Pixel 6 is going to get you a 6.4-inch display. It has multiple cameras on the back, front-facing camera. It's got Google's own processor, which lets it have all of the updated features for Android 12. Things like real-time interpretation of different languages, really fast talk-to-text dictation, some camera features like magic eraser and true toning for skin tones, some of those things that you see in the advertisements. This also has 128 gigs storage. Good battery too. It's got a 4,500 milliamp battery, and it's also 5G.
Yeah, so it's a really well-rounded device.
Yeah,
and some carriers would be considered probably among the best phones available.
Yep.
So the Pixel 6 is really one of our picks that we find also very common on a lot of these.
Right.
carrier, best of devices, and it's something that I think for somebody who is new to Android, it's a good way to find your footing.
Sure.
There's, it's not a complicated UI or software experience.
Right.
And I feel like if you've had a phone and you're ready to upgrade, if you've not had a Pixel, by switching over to this, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised at the way things are. And I think for good reason, it's, probably the most popular. I think it outsold the 4 and the 5 Pixel series combined.
Yep.
So yeah, you really can't go wrong with that one. It's about as junior flagship as you'll get.
Yeah.
So what was the price on that one again?
That one comes in at $600 for 128 gigs of storage. And then also they have financing through a firm.
Okay. Yep. So now there are other devices available through Visible, and you can also bring your phone. If you have one, you can check to see if it's compatible. You don't have to go with what they have. You can also purchase your phone, unlocked through the manufacturer, through select retailers, second-hand markets like Swappa and so forth. So that's Visible's best phones as of summer 2022.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast.
Thanks for listening.
We appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, feedback, concerns, comments, anything, shoot us an email at podcast@AndroidGuys.com. We'd love to hear from you one way or the other. Luke, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
I am on Instagram and Twitter at Luke Gaul, Gaul.
And I'm on Instagram at Scott Webster and Twitter as SWebster77. Until next time, thanks for listening.
See ya.